What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. It is almost 1:30 in the morning, and here we are reviewing the new release of Reagan. Now, before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to follow me on all the social media pages. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, with Reagan, this is one release that I have been anticipating for a little while. Couple months ago, I seen the trailer released, and as a social studies teacher, my instant reaction was, I gotta see it. And unfortunately, due to being an adult and having those responsibilities, I had to catch a 10:20 showing tonight of the film, which is why this review is here at 1:30 in the morning almost. Now, in this video, I am going to give two separate reviews. The first one is going to be as a movie fan, and the second one is going to be from a social studies perspective. Now, early on in this film, you really saw how the director wanted the audience to view Reagan, but also view the events that he was kind of situated in. Now, this reminded me very much like Fly Me to the Moon, when you saw all of the challenges that Kennedy was having with the Soviet Union. Here you saw that with Reagan. Now, during this time, this whole film is really centered around the perspective of a former Soviet spy who is really kind of giving information to the next group of the Communist Party. A young man is wanting to learn how Reagan kind of impacted the fall of the Soviet Union. And that's where this film ultimately kind of takes the lead. Now, the one big thing I had going into this movie was a goal of hoping that this film would provide us with the ability to see Reagan from the time he was an actor all the way up until his presidency. And it delivered. I had to keep track in my own head and looking at my watch. There was the first 45 minutes of this movie centered around Ronald Reagan's time as an actor, as president of the SGA, or SA, the SAG. I don't know why I said SGA. It's early. It is early. The Screen Actors Guild. But he also were able to see Reagan as a child in the upbringing that he had. So in that 45 minutes of the 2 hours of this film, that set the tone. And I think that was very crucial to this film because you got to see Reagan's first marriage. You got to see the struggles he was going through. And you also got to see how communism was affecting his actual job as an actor and then the president of the SAG. Now, that is very good. And that's what really kept you entertained at the very beginning. Ultimately, we see Reagan's rise into the governor of California. You see his love for his ranch. But you also see that the common theme that the director is wanting to hit on is communism. And so the fight against the Russians, the fight to kind of figure out how the U.S. needs to handle these situations. And that really plays the role through the entire 2 hours. Now, the one aspect that I thought they did a very good job on was also showing Reagan's struggles. So the struggle with his first marriage, the struggle with his father, and the ultimate struggle after he did not receive enough of the delegates at the Republican convention against Gerald Ford. Ultimately, during that time, that's when you'd have the rise of Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter would become president, which ultimately would lead to Reagan then running again, in which history already knows he becomes president. During his time as president, this movie really highlighted how him and his administration were trying to navigate the struggles of the Soviet Union, the struggles of the tension that was between the two, but also understanding how other world leaders were reacting to the U.S. and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Dennis Quaid and Penelope Miller did a great job at portraying Reagan and Ronald Reagan, I should say, and Nancy Reagan. And I thought they overall allowed the movie to make sense. And I think that was key because anyone that has seen or read about Ronald Reagan or have paid attention to anything said, you saw how Nancy and Ronald always were reflective of each other, but also how influential they were to each other's lives. And I really feel like you got that in this movie. Now, as the movie went on, you see the age factor come in. You see the struggles of his own personal being there. And then you get to the part where his presidency, I should say, is ultimately ending. So with that, you have the famous Gorbachev line about bringing down the wall. You see the complete domination of the Electoral College against Walter Mondale, and it sets the tone. This movie was very good. After I left, I looked at what the ratings were, and I completely disagree. If you are going to see this movie, you are going for a few reasons. Number one, you like history. Number two, you like presidents. Number three, you like Ronald Reagan. For me, as a movie fan, this movie was a 4.3 out of 5. I felt that even though I've talked about all the highs of what this movie was, I still feel like there were some lows. Number one, I felt that even though communism was the center of this film, I felt that it could have discussed some more of the issues going on in the United States. So you saw early on as Governor Reagan handling the protest and Reagan handling things like that, but you didn't really see that from the presidency. The president aspect was all communism. So I feel like that was a big kind of, not, I don't want to say turn off, but it impacted the viewing. I think another aspect of it that could have been a little bit different is the length. Even at 2 hours, you're trying to fit as much in as you can. If you are going to see this movie and you're just wanting to see a new film, that 2 hour time limit or that 2 hours that it's there is going to feel like a long time. And because they are fitting so much information in, and it will ultimately lead you to kind of feel lost if you don't understand what's going on. So I feel like that could be an issue. However, as a social studies teacher, this movie is a 5 out of 5. I feel like I could show this movie to my classes. I could allow them to see what is going on, why things were going on, but ultimately how things were resolved. That is why, as a social studies teacher, it is a 5 out of 5. Even with a PG-13 rating, this is a movie I feel like any social studies teacher that teaches U.S. history could show this film, especially with high school students. But as a movie fan, it is a 4.3 out of 5. I recommend you go see it. If you don't like history and you're not a fan of presidents, this wouldn't be the movie for you. But Reagan is out now. It is a good movie. It is enjoyable. You got to see a president's life, but I am glad that Reagan finally has a movie out. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to follow me on all the social medias that are posted in the video, and I will see you guys later.